Hello, welcome to CD Expo's Virtual. This webinar's focus is on increasing water efficiency and managing water-related risks in the smart home. It's a newer topic for the CD Expo, but nevertheless one that is increasingly on everyone's minds about where and how can I get better management over water in the smart home. A special thank you to Delta for sponsoring this design and connection session. Delta is collaborating with my venture capital firm, Mazarine Ventures, to lead this educational program for the audience. I'm the moderator. My name is John Robinson. I've been in the water wastewater business for about 12 years. Our fund has a big focus on water in the smart home. We're passionate about it. We've seen locks, lights, and thermostats become smart. Why not water? That's what everyone's asking. So we see water as an exciting growth area within the smart home going forward. Today's discussion is exploring opportunities and challenges surrounding water in the built environment, including new advancements in water technology and leak detection. We're also going to discuss how technology integrators and designers can incorporate these technologies into their projects. So I'm joined with a panel of distinguished professionals within water in the built environment. I'm going to allow each of them to briefly introduce themselves. Eric, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. So my name is Eric Adler. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Flume. And what we do at Flume is really essentially kind of what you just mentioned. We saw all these products in the home become smart, and we see water completely left out. So our whole goal here is bringing that smart and intelligent focus to water, specifically for residential homes, helping homeowners understand where and how much water is being used across their property, whether or not they have leaks anywhere in their home, and doing this all in a very fun and engaging way, which water notoriously has not been that fun and engaging. So we're really trying to bring that to the space. And it's a really exciting time here at the company. So I'm excited to be a part of this panel.
And Eric, where is Flume based?
We're based out of San Luis Obispo. Now we're based all over the country because we're all remote, but San Luis Obispo, California is our headquarters.
And how long has the company been around?
About 5 years.
Good to have you on the panel. Mark, introduction.
Hey, thanks, John. Good to meet everybody. My name is Mark Kovsceck. I'm a mathematician and the founder and CEO at Conservation Labs. Our mission is to enable cost-effective and sustainable water use. We have invented a smart water technology that helps reduce the risk of leaks, as well as help save money by saving water. Our focus within the built environment is multifamily properties. The device is very flexible, so it allows us to deal with complex structures like large multifamily, but also smaller structures like restaurants. And restaurants use a lot of water too. In fact, much more than the average home every month. So we're keen to look for creative and fast ways to make a difference. And the technology is being deployed in the built environment, but specifically, again, multifamily restaurants.
Good. And Mark, you're based where?
We're in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Similar to Eric, our team is distributed across the US and soon to be in Europe as well.
And how long have you been at this?
Well, how long have I been at it? How long has Conservation Labs been? I've been at it for about 6 or 7 years,
Okay.
but Conservation Labs has been around for about 4 years.
What was your initial catalyst, or what was the genesis of this idea?
We had a leak in the house that went undetected for a few months, and I didn't know about it till the water bill showed up. And this was several years ago, and all of the technology at that time was well over $1,500, required a plumber to install, wasn't smart, really. And so I thought that there was a way to do this much less expensively and let me know within seconds if there's a problem versus, the second water bill.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Good. Well, good to have you on the panel, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Kirk, introduction, please.
Thanks, John. Yeah, so my name is Kirk Stinchcombe, and I'm the founder of a consulting firm called Econics. And Econics specializes in water sustainability and conservation. Most of our clients are water service providers. We also do some work for sort of state, provincial governments across North America. I also co-founded a tech startup called Waterworth, which is a company that provides software and services to help water utilities with financial analysis and sustainably funding their water systems. But the hat that I'm wearing today, in my spare time, I'm vice chair of the board of directors of an organization called the Alliance for Water Efficiency, which is based in Chicago. And so the Alliance, or AWE, it's a stakeholder-based nonprofit, and it's dedicated to the efficient use of water, as the name suggests. So it serves as North America's advocate for water-efficient products and programs, and it provides sort of a clearinghouse or information hub for information and assistance around water conservation. So we do research, we do advocacy, we do training, and our goal is to stand as kind of the clear, authoritative national voice for water efficiency. And obviously, all of that's driven by kind of a passion for it and a belief that efficiency is good for the pocketbook. It preserves the environment and it helps communities thrive. So it's a good mission. The Alliance itself is a partnership organization. So it brings together people and companies that have, basically it's all about a shared interest in water use efficiency. So we have over 500 members across North America, and that includes the likes of like appliance and fixture manufacturers. So, global companies like Whirlpool and Kohler, down to, smaller technology firms like Eric's company, Flume, is one of our members. We also represent water utilities, a lot of water utilities ranging from big global cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco and so forth, right down to small towns. And then we have academia, the consulting sector, where I come from, and others. So one of the goals of the Alliance is to transform the market for fixtures and appliances. And so that's where we come into this discussion, and emerging technology is obviously a huge part of that. So the Alliance is very interested in this topic, and we like it because there's benefits for consumers, the people that are buying and installing this technology, but we also really like it because of the benefits for water utilities and for preserving water resources. And so that's probably where I'll kind of come in on the conversation today, is kind of those bigger picture benefits.
Great. And Kirk, where are you based?
I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, so I'm up north.
Yep.
But the Alliance is based in Chicago, so I spend a lot of time in that fantastic city.
And the Alliance for Water Efficiency is a North American organization?
It is, yeah. About 10% of the North American, the US, Canada population is in Canada, and so about 10% of the Alliance's members are in Canada. It kind of tracks.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time, Kirk, to join the panel. So these are our three panelists, and for audience out there, if you do have questions, there's a chat function at the bottom of the screen for Q&A. And we'll try to get to all the questions in the Q&A, but with limited time, we'll do our best to hit your question. So let's get started. I actually want to circle back to Kirk. And I want to start off with what is potentially the most complicated part of this, but maybe the most important, and that's around policy and code. What's happening in the policy and plumbing code world to enable smart plumbing and smart fixtures to get some traction in the space? Are there headwinds, tailwinds from your perspective on the code and policy perspective?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's timely as well. So I would say that generally, plumbing codes are fairly slow to evolve. It doesn't really, codes don't gravitate towards the bleeding edge. So technology like Eric and Mark's company, I don't think there's frankly a lot happening in codes themselves right now to promote it. Where I see more traction happening is with the individual utilities that are starting to provide incentives and partner with firms like Eric and Mark's. I think that's kind of where the traction is right now. So I know, for example, the likes of Southern Nevada Water Authority has partnerships and rebates with, where you can get discounts on these kinds of products. I can name many others, East Bay Municipal Utility District in Oakland, and many more. So, and I know, I'm not so sure about you, Mark, but I know Eric's company, because I worked a little bit more with Flume, has a lot of these kind of partnerships going on to kind of get the word out on the technology. So not to skirt your question too much, but I just think that's kind of where the more interesting battlefront is right now.
Eric, getting back to you, where is the battlefront for you? Where are you seeing most of the action from Flume's perspective?
Well, as Kirk mentioned, the utilities are a huge opportunity for us, right? Because they have all these challenges that they're facing, and they might not necessarily have codes that they're focused on, but there are these mandates that are coming down from the state level that are requiring utilities to meet certain conservation goals and basically assist their customers in some way to do that. And so we can then partner with those utilities and be that forcing function that helps customers understand their water usage, detect leaks, reduce that consumption. And that's where about half our business really comes from, is these utility partnerships all over the country. So that really is a huge opportunity for us. I mean, the other side of the equation is just consumer demand. This is a brand new category. As you mentioned earlier here, consumers are used to seeing smart light bulbs, smart thermostats. Many of them don't know smart water exists, right? And now it does. So there is this massive, massive market that's just learning about this and starting to seek it out organically.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, for our audience that might be new to this, could you possibly lay out the different options that a building owner or operator or occupier would have for monitoring flow and leaks? What are the different things they could do and the different technology verticals that somebody could employ?
Sure. Just a request to clarify, what type of building are we talking about? Because I'll give you a different answer.
True. Well, let's just say multifamily. What are the different options that an owner occupier would have to monitor flow and leaks?
Yeah, they're actually fairly limited. And in the multifamily space, the most typical type of water sensor is a basic contact sensor. And so those are the ones that are deployed on the floor, and they're simply looking for water. Once water has been detected, it alerts the property owner. So they're not the same type of technology, obviously, that Eric and I are working on, but that is certainly the most common. There are other forms out there that are point of distribution or point of use sensors. Those are pretty difficult to deploy because you have to put many of them in the property. And so really, we look at what we're doing with our product, H2O, is pretty unique because all you need is a pipe, and you can deploy it on a floor, on a riser, in a unit, and get different levels of resolution based off of that deployment, and hence different levels of protection. So we see what we're doing is really unique in that space because of that, and it's a bit lonely, which we like in terms of chasing it. But certainly when you talk about headwinds, there are many of them to deal with in that space because it's commercial property. You're working with a chief data officer or a chief information officer or a CTO. You're not working with a homeowner, like a property owner or a tenant. And so there are a number of unique requirements because of that. And so,
what about the shutoff valves? I mean, I want to automatic shutoff. There's a leak. Why can't I shut off the valve? Is there a genre of technologies that do that?
Yeah, great question. So there is a genre of technologies that do both monitoring and shutoff combined, or there are ones that only do the shutoff that might partner with somebody like Flume or Conservation Labs, right? And so we're sending that signal to the shutoff. Now the challenge in the multifamily space is where are you going to shut it off? Like if you have a 10 or 100 unit building, you can't shut off everybody's water for a single leak. And then becomes questions on pipe access and power and other aspects that make it more complicated. So we're not seeing a lot of shutoff activity in multifamily because of that, but it's certainly, if it was possible, it would be certainly interesting to deploy it there as well.
John, can I chime in on that? Like, in my mind, the way that I see this kind of technology developing, this is maybe an oversimplification, but in my mind, there's sort of, it falls into two broad categories when we're talking about particularly single family residential, So there's a bunch of niche end use technology that's targeting things like swimming pools. Ratio is a technology for outdoor irrigation systems, which has a ton of promise. We've got smart clothes washers and smart water heaters, or strap-on devices for water heaters, those kinds of things. So they're all about like niche end uses. So you think of a way that a house uses water, and there's probably a technology for every one of those end uses, right? So that's one kind of bundle or basket. The other basket, which I think both Mark and Eric's technologies loosely fall into, is kind of the whole home monitoring, where we're trying to understand how water is being used around the home generally. And each of those is really exciting. I'm very interested in the whole home technology monitoring because, again, like coming at it from a conservation perspective, it's just giving us these huge opportunities to have like this wealth of information that we could get in the past, but it was very difficult to get. And it's becoming very easy to get, to understand like how much water is being used in toilets, how much water is being used in clothes washers, what time of day is it being used, how long is it being used for. And we can use that information to get really granular about designing really effective conservation programs. Yeah.
We agree, Kirk. From an investment perspective, we like the whole home solution. Certainly you can put things around toilets and faucets, and that stuff is going to be around for a while. But the whole home solution has gotten significantly improved in the technology and the resolution. But that's a space we like as well. Eric, you painted a nice framework to think of this in terms of distributed monitoring and then whole home monitoring. That's a good way to frame it. Eric, you're at the meter. Most people in the single family home, they don't know necessarily where their meter is. And then getting to it, it's in a hole, there's spiders down there and stuff. What's the advantage of at the meter flow monitoring, which is leak monitoring? And what are the disadvantages of that play from your perspective? Try to be as objective as you can.
Yeah. I'll be completely unbiased because I'm trying to be biased. So when we developed Flume, right, the two main goals we have with this or three, I guess, is we wanted entire property monitoring. That was a big portion of it. We want it to be affordable. And we want it to be easy to install, right? And it's a pretty challenging three things to do. And so we looked at where is the easiest place to monitor all the flow in the home. And the vast majority of residential homes out there have a water meter, right? And the nice thing about these water meters is that they have to go through very rigorous standards in order to be used by water utilities and cities, because this is what you're getting billed on. And so instead of us reinventing the wheel, we were just trying to piggyback off of that technology and very, very closely monitor that meter without requiring a professional to come on out and cut your pipe and install some complex $500 system, right? And so the advantages with ours is, it's that affordability, it's that ease of installation. We can drop ship product to your door. You can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on our site, and you're up and running in 10 minutes, all by yourself. You might not know where your water meter is, but after you chat with us or after you buy the product, we help you find it really quickly. So it's not too difficult. Of course, though, there are some really great products out there in this space, and it's good to have competition, right? Because if you don't have competition, what you're doing probably isn't worthwhile. Otherwise, someone else will be trying to go after it. And so having companies like Flow out there and Fin and Buoy, they've all really, really made these awesome inline systems. And they have a place in the market, like Moen, working with Flow now, that's great. They're really focused, I think, specifically more on kind of the high-end properties and shutting off potential leaks to those properties. Whereas we're focused on trying to get to the mass market and data collection in the mass market and doing so with very, very low barrier to entry. So that's really where we see a fit. And it's becoming quite successful pretty quickly here.
Okay. And Mark, you're after the meter. So Eric's Flumes is at the meter itself. You got to find the meter, you put the sensor on it. You're behind the meter. What does that mean? Why is that advantageous? Or it's not even better or worse, it's just different?
It's different, and we have the same issue. If somebody asks where the meter is, the same question, we get just a variation of that question. When I say it's when the pipe comes into your house, and I will get, well, where is that, right? So we still have to go through that process of walking through basic plumbing schematic. And of course, I'm not speaking for everybody, but there's a learning curve is the point. And it's very different than where is the breaker box or where is the fuse box, even in some homes, whereas most folks would know that. I often ask the question back to people when they say that is, well, if there's a leak in your house, where do you turn off the water? Then you see that look of horror on their face, like, oh yeah, where would I turn off the water if that indeed happened? So we're looking for the pipe. It just fits over the pipe as it comes in. We like to do it where the water is where everything is downstream. All of the activity is downstream, so we can get to whole property or whole house monitoring. But a little bit of projecting into the future, we think that we'll be able to release a product that you could put nearly anywhere in the house and it'll monitor the whole house. So we're super excited by that. Turns out that in other countries, like we're piloting in Australia as an example, they don't have a meter, or they have a meter that's really inaccessible. Even their water tanks are outside, all of these things. And in the UK as well, there's constraints around it. And so we're testing on putting it on the hot water tank or putting it under the bathroom sink. And we're actually getting really fantastic results with that. Too early to launch a product with those locations, but we're getting fantastic results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just briefly, what is the core technology for Conservation Labs?
Yeah, really simple. It's a microphone. What we're doing is using machine learning. I mentioned I'm a mathematician. So when I had that problem in the home, I wanted a really inexpensive way to do it. Turns out microphones are pretty inexpensive because they're in every cell phone across the globe. And all of the heavy lift is around the machine learning. And so there's advantages and disadvantages to that. The advantage is, the one that I just mentioned, where you can use machine learning to do things that may not be possible otherwise. So we're converting sound signals similar to like an Alexa device as an example that converts a sound signal to data to a response. We're using a lot of those same technologies, but applied to water data.
And Kirk, I'm coming to you next, Kirk, but I just want to quickly ask Eric, what is the core principle, the engineering principle behind your technology?
Yeah, so we're cheating a little bit. Monitoring water flow is really difficult from a physics perspective. And so what we do is we actually monitor a magnetic signal. And the magnetic signal exists inside of the water meters. So by picking up on that, we are able to convert that to water flow. And it's highly accurate by monitoring the meter itself. So that's how we do it.
Cool. So Kirk, my question for you is on monitoring water use by block, by home, by block, by neighborhood, by city. And is that something Alliance for Water Efficiency is able to monitor the aggregate water use, like in recessions or different days of the week? Do you, as a nonprofit, do you have research capabilities to?
Yeah, we haven't done that particular research, but let me talk about, Alliance does lots of research, but not in that particular space. But let me talk about how that is being transformed, like how that research is happening and how it's being transformed. So if you look back into the 90s, when we first started to have any kind of technology to do kind of real-time monitoring of water use, so the Water Research Agency had a project in the 90s called the Residential End Use Study, very famous, like in our sector, very famous study, which I see everybody's heads nodding, right? And so the way that worked is we had, a very cumbersome technology, expensive, and so you could only do a very small sample of homes, and it was a really expensive research. And so you had to, it was I think, the technology was so big that they had to kind of bolt it around trees and things like that to kind of keep people from stealing, so that study was first done in the 90s, and it was replicated just a few years ago to see what kind of changes had happened. Incidentally, huge changes in the last 20 years because of water efficient technology in the homes, low flow toilets and that kind of thing. But now we're at the point where technology like what we're talking about here today, Conservation Labs and Flume. So I'll give you for instance, my company was involved in a project with Flume where we were partnering with Metro Vancouver, so the bulk water supplier for all of Vancouver. And through that project, which was unfortunately delayed by COVID, but I'm sure it'll be off the ground again soon, I hope. I believe, Eric, I don't know if you can remember the number, but I think it was we were going to do 500 homes, and we were just simply going to put a flume on every meter in that home at like a very low cost. And so my point with that is that what this is allowing us to do is, instead of these big national studies that are expensive and cumbersome, we can do studies in specific locations and find out how water use is varying from one place to another. Mm-hmm. And the cost and ease, compared to just 10 years ago, like, it's a huge transformation. Eric, I was very disappointed that we didn't get to pursue that project, because I think it's going to be very interesting. So yet another example of COVID kind of getting in the way, but hopefully we'll get a chance to pick it up.
Yeah, it'll come back around. We've done I don't know, I can't quite talk about it yet, but we've been working with Department of Water Resources as well. And we've done a very interesting end-use project with them at the state level, which is really cool to see. But just like you're saying, it's amazing to be at the point where soon we'll be able to take kind of all of our customers all over the country, or all the sensors all over the country. And if you want to do an end-use study and understand where and how water is being used on a fixture level, it's very soon going to be as easy as kind of an export button on our back end, be able to show, what percentage is used for toilets or showers or sinks or irrigation. We can capture all that data from just the water meter itself without the need for additional sensors. So it's becoming very, very interesting on the data side, kind of what we can do with what we're capturing.
And I think, for me, as somebody that's involved in design of water conservation programs for the utility, I've been doing this for too long. And, we have always operated with tremendous uncertainty about end use, and a lot of uncertainty about residential single family end use, but also a ton of uncertainty around other sectors. So Mark, your technology, like talking about restaurants, for example, just having a better understanding of how a restaurant is using water, through whether it's the cooling systems, the ones through cooling, the toilets, the cleaning functions in a restaurant, those are all big end uses. And as you said in your intro, restaurants use a lot of water. So it's not just homes that we're getting this data for. It's the opportunities there to have this kind of insight into all kinds of sectors.
Restaurant water use is beautifully complex. We're disaggregating sometimes up to 30 or 50 different fixtures in a restaurant.
For sure. And Mark, you're able to collect, along the same lines as what Eric's saying, you're able to collect that data and de-aggregate it into end use and time of use and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we got a few minutes left here. Mark, what are the drivers that you've learned, just quickly lightning round, what are the main drivers for Conservation Lab customers to call you and say, we need this installed right away? What are the 2 or 3 big ones that people would call you for?
Yeah, the two big ones, and it's roughly 50-50, what turns folks' heads or why they're going to call is leak detection, leak protection, and then saving money by saving water. And I would be remiss in saying that, of course, it's more than just water savings, it's waste and energy savings as well. So water is one of the biggest energy users in the world, getting the water to where it needs to be, as well as once it's in the home. So those are the 2 big ones. But, in the commercial space, I would add at least one more, which is sustainability and the power of sustainability for a brand as it attracts customers. And so, for example, if you're a multifamily property owner, you are more attractive to really any age group and demographic if you promote and kind of live sustainability. It attracts customers.
Eric, would you add anything else to that? Do you have similar drivers from your customer base?
Yeah, so we communicate with our customer base a lot. We actually have in-app chat features right inside of the Flume app. So customers can chat with us, we can chat with them. So we really see what's going on when there's a problem in the home. Another great place to look is our Amazon reviews and see why people bought the product. The main driver we see on Amazon is someone had a really, really painful experience at some point in the past. Either was a massive water leak. They'll say, hey, I had $10,000 in damage in my home because of this leak I didn't know about for weeks, and then I finally found it. Or they had a $1,000 water bill and they didn't understand why they had that, and maybe had an irrigation leak. So those are really kind of these painful drivers that are the reason people buy the product. When we work with utilities, though, utilities reduce the cost so much and subsidize it that the reason those customers are buying it is totally just peace of mind and understanding where and how water is being used in the home. It's like $50 and they buy it through a utility. And so just understanding how they can become more efficient and ways to save water and ways to reduce their bill, that's enough for customers to buy it through these utility programs.
Kirk, since we're wrapping up, a couple minutes left, any comments on the insurance sector? They should be all over this, right? What's been your experience with insurance and water efficiency? And
that's a good one. And to be honest, I haven't heard much from that sector about this, and I'm not sure why. That's something I'd like to look into.
Eric and Mark, any quick comments on insurance sector involvement in all this?
Yeah,
I would say they're keenly
really good at selling policies. They're really good at selling policies and really bad at selling anything else, right? I mean, you have to think about what they're focused on, where they get their money from. We'll get there eventually. I think Flow is going through the same issues and same challenges, and they see a lot of opportunity with it as well. So it's going to happen, but it's just a slow moving train.
Mark, you had a thought on that?
Repeating that 3 to 5 years out, we may actually see, to get a homeowner insurance policy, that you require a device like H2O or Flume. So I think it's going to be there, but it's going to get there, but it's going to be a few years.
Yeah, I couldn't.
One more thought on that, John. I think I'd go back to where I started, which is, for me, like right now, the real next, like where this is getting traction is with the water utilities. And there's a lot of parallels with what happened with other efficient technology in the past. So, if you look back in the 90s, every water utility in North America was doing rebates for water efficient toilets, right? And so everybody could get $50 off their toilet if they got something efficient. And that had a huge impact on transforming the marketplace. Now you go into Home Depot and you cannot find anything that isn't low flow. And we're seeing the same thing start to happen with technology like Eric and Mark's. And I think, if we look 10 years out ahead and we can continue to get the utilities interested in this stuff, I think we'll see this technology a lot more commonplace.
One final question thanks, Kirk, for that clarification. Interoperability and integration with other smart home devices. I mean, do I need to download my own Flume app? Can I just use my existing smart home apps to monitor water flow? How are you working with other smart home groups? Eric first.
Yeah, it's a great question. So right now we're compatible with Alexa. We want to be compatible with Google and Nest as well here soon. But this is really a bigger question for like the smart home space in general, right? There really needs to become a central aggregator that controls everything. And I expect that to come from Google or from Amazon. I don't expect Flume being the aggregator of all smart home products in the home. That wouldn't really make sense. But, eventually we hope to see that on a bigger scale, and we will work with them. Right now, I think us and other companies in the space are kind of focused on getting the technology out there and then interoperability as we grow.
Okay. And Mark, it seems like you're more B2B, so maybe they don't need to have one.
Well, I would say in the multifamily space that those integrators already exist. And so, it's part of our business strategy or go-to-market strategy to partner with them and then to be incorporated into that ecosystem of sensors where they already have lights, locks, thermostats communicating through their hub and or through their specific application. And then we're just plugged into, either their hub or their application.
Great. Well, good, gentlemen. Thanks for your time. It's been a great discussion. And now let's move it over to Q&A to see what questions our audience has.